Welcome, friends, to another live reality games podcast. I'm Kirk, and we are here today to talk everything Survivor UVA WAHOO Warriors Season 4, a double boot episode. It's episode 3 and episode 4, all in one, and we're coming to you live right before the next episode drops at 9 o'clock. And with me today is Andrew, our current host, and also Season 3 contestant. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to talk about the episode. I love Leandra and Sarah, so it's great that I get to be here and talk with them as well. And it's nice to meet you, Kirk.
It's awesome to meet you guys. I've been following this group for a while, and it's really cool to bring it all together with these podcasts. Leandra is from season 1, a season I haven't watched, but I'm excited to hear more about it and the evolution of this organization. Leandra, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Super excited to be here. I think it was a really exciting double episode. And excited to meet you. So this will be fun.
And we have one of the current contestants from this season, the amazing, I've been talking about her in all of the podcasts, the amazing, incomparable, and talks like a sailor, Sarah. How are you doing?
I'm good, Kirk. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm glad we brought this all together. So we always want to get right to it because we have so many fans that watch this and want to be a part of these experiences. Sarah, let's start with you. How did you find out about this, and how did you get involved and wrapped into the whole thing?
Yeah, so as I said, Andrew and I have known each other since the 5th grade, believe it or not. We actually started doing chorus together and met in a small ensemble group. Not lying, I know. But so we've known each other since the 5th grade. So when I got to UVA, Andrew, we all knew this throughout high school. Andrew loved Survivor and spaghetti. Those are the two loves of his life. So when we got to college, this was Andrew's opportunity. He immediately sort of got involved in the Survivor Club and constantly tried to egg me on to join. And I'm not a very camera shy person, so I think he kind of knew that I was going to be an easy bait into this. So he was like, you should just start watching some Survivor. I'm disappointed in you that we're such good friends and you haven't started watching more of it anyways. So just start watching and see if you want to come audition. And I did, and it was a lot of fun. And I think even during my audition, the interviewers were a little taken aback by my demeanor and such, but it's all turned out for the best. So it's been great. And I'm happy I got involved.
Awesome. This was 2018.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, isn't that crazy to think about? So then, Leandra, you played in about, what year was it? 2016?
I played spring of 2017.
2017. Okay, yeah. Awesome. So how did you get involved with the whole Survivor at UVA?
Yeah, so it was the first year that Genki was starting it because it was season 1 or whatever. And I've always been a really big Survivor fan. And then in high school, I got more into podcasts and stuff like that. Going into college, kind of like how Sarah said, Andrew, everybody knew that about him. Everybody knew that about me, that I really loved Survivor. And so Genki had posted to a Facebook group that he was looking to start it, and he was seeing if people are interested. And one of my roommates sent it to me and was like, oh my gosh, this screams you. And I'm kind of not the type of person who would just do that because I'm pretty shy and don't really like to, I don't know, meet new people that much. But I love Survivor, so then I just decided to go for it.
That's so cool. It's such opposite experiences for the both of you. And then Andrew, you're a super fan. So how did you find out about this?
Yeah, so I was first year in my dorm room, wasn't doing anything on a Thursday night, but I was rewatching Survivor Marquesas or something like that. And one of my hallmates walked by and he was like, hey, did you know that there's a club here that's devoted to Survivor and you get to play Survivor? And I was like, oh, that's awesome. Sent them a little email, got an interview the next day, and yeah, it's been a big ride from there. It's basically defined my whole college experience now. I've been a part of it for 4 years. I'm the host now, so yeah, a big part of my college experience.
What are the future plans for Survivor at UVA?
Well, it's tough right now because obviously, like we can't do events in person. So we are running a season right now through Zoom, and it's fun. The players are into it and they're having a good time. But yeah, the hope is that we can just continue as normal once the spring rolls up and have a season just like season 4 was, like in person, lots of fun, lots of action. As for like episodes getting out there, season 4 will be released in full, and then fingers crossed we can get another season out there one day. The toughest part is editing. I'm sure everybody that's talked to you, Kirk, will say the same thing. It's hard to get people that want to put time into editing because the reward is just the people watching it, right? They're not getting paid, so it's a tough job.
Absolutely, Andrew. I was just talking to my partner, Dustin, who also does these podcasts, and we were talking about how we want to do a podcast just on the editors to give them some love, to put them in the limelight. Because the thing is, what we love to do is watch these, and they just aren't rewarded at all for so much hard work. And for some of these groups, they're putting out so many episodes and they're giving us our fix that CBS can't give us right now. So it's pretty incredible. And I keep saying, if you're a fan, support them in any way, whatever that means to you, try to support them. But let's get into episode 3. We start with the Super Mario Bros. Again. Now, I will say this, Lil Ryan is the editor, and I got to meet him last week. But I think I'm trying to figure out, I can't balance the edits. Like, is this a winner's edit? Or is this a little bit of, like, if I was editing, I would want every episode of Survivor British Columbia season 5 to be all Kirk all the time, even though I give terrible confessionals. So I'm a little curious about that. But it's interesting because we see them a lot this episode. Like, there's like, I stopped counting, like 4 or 5 different confessionals of just this trio talking. I'm super curious what your guys' take on this threesome is. Let's start with you, Andrew. Like, wait, first, you're all spoiled, right? You all know the end of this season, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not spoiled. Audience, we're not going to spoil you because we don't want to take this down. So just remember that in our conversation. Okay. So take it away, Andrew. What's your takeaway in this episode from this threesome?
Yeah, well, obviously, like, it's important to first like analyze the fact that Hunter just went home, right? Episode 2, Hunter gets booted out. And the beginning of this episode focuses on this potential of girls versus guys. And the Super Mario Bros. Has 2 guys, Mario and Ryan, and Margaret right in the center of things, right? So Margaret is kind of acting as this like centerpiece of information between these 2 potential groups. And so they hold like a lot of sway on WAHIM, right? They have a lot of power, they have a lot of influence. So it would make sense, I think, that this episode devotes a lot of time to the relationships that they're building, because each of them kind of goes off and pairs up with somebody, right? Like, you see Ryan and Andy have a relationship, you see Ellie and Margaret have a relationship, and Mario is just kind of in the mix of things all over the place, right? So I feel like they have a lot of influence, and I wouldn't be surprised if that becomes a factor down the road as well, their influence as a trio.
Absolutely. I'm getting such vibes from Mario, especially after the conversation with Kevin, right?
Yeah, they live in the
was
same building.
Ooh, that's some information that I'm wondering how many people have. Like, I'm sure there's more information out there, but it's like at the tribal council where Big Ryan gets outed. I know I'm kind of like getting a little further, but it seems like that information I would want to keep so secret. Like, I would be like, dude, we got to split up. Don't sit by me in class. Like, if we live on the same floor, don't sit by me in the cafeteria. Like, this is 2020. Everybody has a camera. Like, click, click. Here you go. They're talking. Like, I don't know. But the thing that I thought was really interesting is the next section we get into Tommy, who has the idol, and we see I can never say their tribe name right. Chomanics?
Chomanique.
Yeah.
Chomanique. They're all still looking for it. And Tommy, I want to get into this a lot in this podcast. Talks about he doesn't like lying, and talks that he has this great moral compass. And I'm a huge Tommy stan. I mean, you saw last episode if you watched the podcast. I love Tommy. I love his game. So I'm wondering if this is game talk or if this is him as a person a little contradictory. Do you know what I'm saying? Did you guys feel that at all?
I guess a little bit while playing with Tommy, especially, he often at least seemed to, project as kind of like, I'm an individual, like no one has my vote, like nailed down. I'm very much a free agent, because I think he did really feel like he had a moral compass, but at the same time, like I think anyone's going to say that they have a good moral compass when they have such a big safeguard in their hands. Like, I don't know how much I would actually say he's got a great moral compass. So that's sort of my 2 cents on the thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say something similar. I feel like it's like a little bit of both of, especially when he says it to all his allies. So like it's easy to play up. Like I have a strong moral compass. We're like the moral gang. I think that he said that. So that like they think Tommy's just so honest and stuff that he's never gonna turn on them. And then also maybe it's like a little bit of justification to himself. Like if he feels, like bad about lying and stuff, he can justify it by saying, but I know I'm a good person and like I have morals, but this is a game, So I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, I would agree. And honestly, it's pretty funny seeing that whole group that did very briefly call themselves like the moral gang or whatever throughout the rest of the episode just completely like shit on Sarah for being loud at a challenge. And it's like, what are you guys doing? So contradictory.
Absolutely. Like this is the arc I saw, was this group that had this and I've been in those tribes. I get it. It's an easy, you can kind of hide. It's this group think sheeple mentality, and it gets you far sometimes in Survivor. But then they're no longer sheeple, they turn into snakes. And the edit literally shows their glistening eyes at tribal council, like glistening like a snake's eyes outside. I'm like, this could not be better editing. So Ryan, kudos to you, dude. I loved it.
I mean, I always say it like takes a bitch to know a bitch. So like, if I'm the one that they're calling an asshole and a bitch, then it takes one to know one. So yeah, totally agree on that point.
So, Tommy decides not to create a fake idol. He doesn't hide it, which I thought, oh, just own it. It's Survivor. Just do it. It seems like everybody is going to have a fake idol soon in college Survivor. So, but I thought another just funny takeaway is that the security guard ratted on Kevin. I think that's really funny. Like my takeaway was like, aren't security guards just supposed to keep people safe and not like divulge like information? Isn't that the opposite of safety? Like, I don't want to really go on campus and him to be like, oh yeah, Kirk just went over there if you're looking for him. Like, if you don't know me, like, I don't know.
Well, honestly, Kirk, that's a pretty like unique aspect of college Survivor. Like very frequently, not even only in our seasons, but in tons of other seasons, like you could be talking game with someone at a dining hall and some random person overhears it, happens to be friends of a friend, and then the information gets out, right? Same thing with a security guard. Like who would think? But he just so happened to see Kevin searching and was able to tell Hannah. It's just crazy.
Totally. It's bizarre. Okay, so let's get into the gross food eating challenge. So this is the first challenge of the episode 3 component of this bigger episode. And it's the traditional gross food eating challenge. And I think it was a pretty good setup. I mean, we did not get to see everything because Waheem just dominates, like completely takes it over. But I want to get into this stuff. Like round 1, we get pickled lemons. Who's got a hot take on pickled lemons?
I'm not going to lie. I think the pickled lemons were the easiest of that bunch. I personally have not had to eat the pickled lemons, but they got off easy, I think.
Yeah, I thought it looked pretty easy too. And I love Peyton. Peyton's looking like dreadfully at the camera, just mouthing, "Oh my God, oh my God." And I'm just like, it doesn't look bad to me. A little citrus.
Yeah, like how bad can that be?
Yeah. My favorite part too is eat the lemons. Eat the lemons. Like, that should be the name of the episode. I have a lot of like alternative names to the episodes. It's kind of a thing I roll with. And I think, Sarah, you have a couple of them too. Yeah, you do. All right. So then we get to second round. And that's the chili peppers. That's always a good one. Chili peppers. And I forget anything else that happens, but Aaron and Mario take it. Is anything else interesting besides watching them suffer?
Right, just their reactions. It's always gold after someone has to eat the hot chili peppers.
Yeah. And then it's Sarah's opportunity to come up. And let's just go back to you. And you open it up and it's preserved duck eggs. And let's just go back in time for a second. And you can recount the experience if you'd like to.
So funny enough, my halmoni, so I'm half Korean, half Caucasian. So my dad is from Korea, lived there for 6 years, came to the US, ended up getting deported, went to Paraguay, came back to the US. So his whole family moved with him. So they've got a pretty deeply, entrenched Korean culture. So I've actually seen these century eggs before. They're like a Korean delicacy. They're disgusting. I've never eaten them. Like as a kid, I was always like, hell no, it's not happening. Kind of wish I had prepped for it then, I guess. But the fermentation that just hits you is like, if you've ever walked into a dissection lab, it's kind of similar to like the smell that like when you breathe in and you can like taste like the fermenting like dead rats and like lab cats and that kind of good shit. Yeah, that's exactly how it is. And it's heinous. It is so heinous. But yeah, I mean, it's mostly the getting it down because the fermentation hits you pretty quick. But I thought it was like by far like unfairly hard. But it was the third one. So I guess it's always, third time's the charm when it really gets serious. So yeah.
If I could quote you correctly, I think you said smells like an asshole. I think that's quote unquote. I think that's another title to the episode, actually.
Yeah, they my halmoni, my Korean grandma, whenever you eat these eggs, the century eggs, so these like fermented Korean delicacies, they're known for giving you what's called burning donkomo syndrome, which essentially means flaming asshole in Korean. And like so like that's all I can think about is like my like halmoni being like ajima, like we're gonna have burning donkomo, and it was just like I was like I'm so fucked. So yeah, it genuinely smells like an asshole.
All right, guys, we can go home now. That was an amazing podcast. That was great. Yeah. So Ellie can eat these like nobody's business. Like that hippie mojo, I tell you, like it just like vibes like come out of nowhere. And wasn't she just like eating Margaret's like? Yeah, she's like, give me more.
Yeah, I think Margaret had only taken like a bite, and then Ellie just like grabbed it from her.
I was waiting for the projectile to come like after that, and she's just like, nope. Ellie's just chilling. So Waim takes it, and I thought an interesting takeaway right after it. Erin hasn't gotten a ton of focus, but she has this really good like truthful experience where she realizes that dichotomy that exists in Survivor where you're playing for the group but playing for yourself. And I love that social struggle. And I think that's why a lot of people like to play Survivor, because it's so hard to balance the competitive sides for some personalities. I love seeing some people struggle with that and come to realize that it's part of this experience, it's part of this game. You have to master that in order to win this game. I don't know. I really liked it.
Yeah, she's a great camera presence too. Like I feel like she grabs the screen very easily.
So we kind of get into the strategy talk after this between a lot of the characters, the cast members. You know, what do they call themselves? That group of five?
Six.
Yeah,
the
core.
WAHOO. there's the 5 core is like the WAHOO squad, I think. And then the 6 is the surviving 6.
Surviving 6 in the WAHOO squad. So we see
Yeah.
one of those groups, and sometimes it's hard for me to tell which group it is because I can't see everybody and they're talking off camera. But one of those groups starts talking. I can't tell which one it is, and we get some interesting information and transformation into these snakier characters. Did you, Leandra? Did you have any takeaways from their conversation?
So is this the conversation when they're basically deciding between Big Ryan and Sarah?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. So I think that it was interesting because Hannah noted that Sarah had a big ego, but then she also like was self-aware and said, and I kind of have one too. So I kind of like that, that she said she noted that, but then she also like noted it about herself because it was kind of funny. They were all just coming in with like a lot of what you said, kind of like the group think of like, just saying all this similar stuff. It was interesting.
I think this could be a critical bad move for Hannah in so many ways. I think I could just talk about Hannah's bad moves at this moment, and I could be totally wrong. I'm so unspoiled, but I mean, she's being obvious that she's playing both sides. She's almost like kind of like posing herself as like this is my job for the alliance, like I'm the one who's going to do this. She also talks about her ego. She clearly has a bit of an ego. Don't you need other big egos around if you're a big ego player in these social games? The more I watch, I think you do. I think she took out somebody who was maybe not going to be an ally but a potential shield in the whole group.
Well, it was also pretty interesting because it seemed like Sarah trusted her pretty well. Like Sarah would always list her as like Ryan and Hannah as like her 1 and 2. So I feel like it was an interesting move just in that. I don't know if it made the most sense for her game, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think early on, my initial strategy was like, I could kind of see, I mean, Hannah, like, I love attention, don't get me wrong, but I think the girl who shows up in a banana costume to the first, ever meeting also loves attention. And I kind of got the gist, like, no one's ever just in a 3-person alliance. It simply doesn't work, as it's not a voting block. It's not super, super useful unless you're on separate tribes. So I could kind of see that Hannah was really taking the reins, it seemed, and doing a lot of organizing. And in my head, I was like, well, if everyone else is smart enough, they will, it was too early to start driving gameplay, but like you should recognize somebody like that if they end up making the merge or, God forbid, get to final tribal, like they're going to have a great game from the start. They've got good momentum going in. Like I was like, let Hannah essentially be like ignite her own dumpster fire. And I obviously really, really underestimated her, and I think underestimated everybody else and should have made a move earlier. But yeah, Hannah is taking charge early in the game on multiple fronts. So like good for her for having that confidence to do it. But I agree. I think in terms of gameplay, it's a very risky one if you can't control all of the pots you're stirring.
Absolutely. It's just very apparent. And I also want to just bring and like let's address this because it's brought up a little bit in the episode is like Ethan and Lauren, and I think Ethan more brings this up, kind of like are we really being targeted because we're weak, or are we being targeted because of microaggressions? I think might be the subtlest way to put it out there. I could be totally off, but that was the takeaway I was kind of getting. And Sarah, I just want you to be able to state like your kind of take on that. Like I didn't see that as part of the experience, but again, I'm not there. I'm just watching an edited version. So what's kind of your perspective on why they were also being floated around as targets?
No, I mean, absolutely. Like, I think that for me, it's typically just the quieter people. It was if I'm going to be aggressive towards anybody, it's going to typically be the people who I think are more suspicious, which are going to be the quieter individuals. And in this case, I mean, I think it's pretty clear, at least early on during tribals, during, most of our challenges, like they are by and large the quieter presences on the team. And it was really me trying to get like a rile out of them, because it's like I just want to see where you are. And like, obviously that could have been done way, way, way better, sitting one-on-one with them, getting them together as a group. But it is, the quiet ones are always the kind of people who I don't trust. They make me nervous, probably because it's like the antithesis of who I am. So it's super unfamiliar at times. But yeah, no, I can absolutely see how it was coming off as microaggressions. And I think that Ethan's feelings, Lauren's feelings are more than valid to have felt singled out. And I would never want to make anybody feel singled out. And I am so sorry if I did. But again, it is an attribute of, I think, perceived shyness more than anything else that made me, get aggressive.
To me, that makes absolute sense. I mean, personality-wise, you're not looking for quiet players. They've clearly, Lauren, you can barely hear her, literally, at Tribal Council. She's so soft. And that makes sense for people that maybe it's just, it comes down to vibes sometimes in Survivor. And part of Survivor is being singled out. At some point, you're always singled out. Even the final two are being singled out at the end of the game. So everybody is at one point, even the winner. But I thought that was an interesting thing that we should discuss, because it's part of their experience in this. Big Ryan comes off saying he wants to trim the fat off the tribe. That's kind of his takeaway. Like it's unnecessary. It's not going to work for my game. I could see that too. But we see Lauren and Ethan have worked their magic. They're in the bigger group. So then we go on to, I think we're at Tribal Council in my notes. So am I missing anything? I did skip a lot taking my notes on my second rewatch. Any other takeaways?
I guess Kevin coming for Big Ryan just as like a physical threat. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And then kind of, this will happen more later, but everybody like worrying about the swap and wanting to take him out before a swap in case he's on a different tribe. So that was kind of part of the bigger conversation, I guess.
Yeah, and that kind of mirrors what you were saying earlier, Kirk, about Hannah targeting Sarah, because Hannah has an ego, Sarah has an ego. If Hannah could hide behind Sarah's ego, then that works out perfectly. Very similar, I felt like, with Kevin and Big Ryan. Like, Big Ryan is huge. Kevin is no slouch either. He's a big guy. Why would you want to get rid of the bigger guy? Because now you're the biggest guy, right?
Yeah. I mean, it just seems like really weird gameplay from both Kevin and Hannah, who happen to be the swing votes, which happens to be a spot a lot of people like. They dream of being in that position. When I play Survivor, can I be in that swing position for one round? But I mean, it's the position you can also make terrible moves. And I that's my takeaway. As people, they're really fun to watch. I mean, Hannah Banana, the Rip Dude that's playing every angle on every tribe, but at the same time, I think you guys made maybe some flaws. We'll see how it plays out. So we're at Tribal Council, and I'm going to try to speed up the rest of this episode. But Sarah, I mean, you were there. Let's just talk about your whole experience at this Tribal Council and experiencing a blindside. Your face was great.
Thanks. That was my language, I think. So, yeah, it's it's the first Tribal Council. You're all anxious. You really start to get a feel for like how everyone's going to interact all together, unadulterated, like verbally with not another team there. But yeah, I think it was the first realization of me being like, oh no, I didn't get the momentum going early enough. And I think there's players like Katie who are very capable, are very smart, and, watch their back a lot. And I think I probably should have taken a page from her book and, not as been so trusting, and also definitely I should have initiated more conversations early on. So yeah, it was a big old blindside, and I feel so naive, but hindsight's 2020. So yeah.
I mean, one thing I'll say, Big Ryan, I don't think he should have fessed up about his relationship to Max. He might have he was trying to make it seem like, oh, it's just the class together, but even everybody there, I mean, even though you already know, I think that's your opportunity to be like, no, I don't talk to this dude. Like, we have the same class. I want you to know that. That's been called out, but I don't. Like, I feel like laying it all out there, even if you're in the minority, is a terrible, terrible idea. And I think he missed an opportunity there, even if he's being blindsided, to even help Max's game, possibly. Like, you never know what's going to happen the next day. So I was like, ugh. I wanted him to dodge that question, because the other takeaway it made me think about is that tribal council is not a confessional. If you're a player, like, you have your confessionals, and I felt like he was using it as a confessional, and I feel like that's maybe not always the best case. I don't think you should blatantly lie, but maybe like omit things. I don't know. We get a lot of the snake conversation. The episode title is here. In fact, Big Ryan says it. The Kanye West of snakes. Kanye, or you're as big as a Kanye West snake. Help me out, people. Help me out. I don't get it.
Well, I think his idea there is, Hannah's going on this spiel about how you have to be a snake to win. Like, you can't play peacefully. You have to bite people. And then you have the other end, Katie and Kevin, who are like, well, I don't think you have to be a snake. I'm not a snake. And then Ryan's coming in like, okay, what degree of snake do you want to be? If you're the Kanye West snake, you're very vocal. You're coming at people to their face. Or you're the little water snake and you're just kind of slithering, amongst the waves, the ripples. I think that's what he was getting at, probably.
Totally. It makes total sense to me now. Thank you, Andrew. So it was just interesting. Like, Hannah's take, there's snakes on our tribe. Katie, Hannah said something like, you do need to be a snake. Katie takes the opposite, or tries to present the opposite perspective of saying you should be as little of a snake as possible, even though in literally seconds we see her shift and the camera changes and it's got the beady little glow in her eyes, and they're voting Ryan out. I mean, it's just like, oh. The dichotomy, as Aaron said, the two sides of Survivor are very fun and riveting to watch. So yeah, after that, all I kept thinking was, oh, Sarah and Max, you have some work to do.
I know. At that point, especially, like, one of the big disadvantages is the fact that Katie, Tommy, Ryan, Max, and I are all, not first years. And then everyone else is a first year, which gives them a huge advantage in terms of, securely talking to dorms. Cause like, I'm not going to haul my ass out to dorms in, the middle of the week to go get the dirt, but like, they all can meet up with a ton of ease. So that's like really, it's hard then, because again, now that once you're out of first year, most people don't live in dorms and such, and then it just becomes really, really tough to organize. And yeah, I think, could I have worked more with Max? Potentially, but at that point, I think it was a matter of time before I was going, and whether or not Max is going to make it, like, I don't know, but like, I do know, but like, yeah, it's hard when you're not in the thick of it with that firm group.
And you do definitely make plays. That's right after Tribal Council, right? Where you're giving Tommy and the others a ride home?
Yes, I think that is right after Tribal. We're all walking, and that's the thing, is like, Hannah's just feeding into it. She's like, oh my God, you didn't know that Ryan was going home. I'm like, Hannah. And she like gives, if there was, the antithesis to an Emmy or a Tony, Hannah deserves it, because oh my God, that acting is so bad now that I realize it. So my sniffer for shit that day, I think, must have just been like out of tune. But yeah, I was getting all of my epistemic knowledge from one source, and that's not the way to play this game. And mistakes happen. You learn. So yeah.
Yeah,
So,
Sarah, to speak to the shit sniffing, I thought it was so funny during Tribal Council when Hannah's trying to act and she turns to you and she has this huge grin on her face as she's trying to act surprised. And I'm like, Sarah, how did you not sense this? Like, she's laughing right at you. Oh, it happens.
I also find it funny that we kind of learned this later on that she didn't really tip off anybody in her alliance that she was going to do this. So like Katie and Tommy were confused, and then I'm sure Kevin was really confused, and he was trying to think of a story as they were all walking back of like how he knew that like he should flip, and it was all very, very funny.
Sarah, I'm curious to what did you actually believe? Because it seems like a lot of people were kind of playing like I hinkied the vote, and the narrative was a little confusing for me. So what did you actually, from everybody talking to you, what did you actually think happened at that tribal council?
So I think at that tribal council, I thought we had firmly secured the votes. And I felt pretty good about it, but again, was getting all of my information from Hannah because I wanted to sit back and sort of ride this train out until the merge and then start to, play my pieces a little bit better. So I was like, let Hannah orchestrate all of this. She's going to end up digging her own grave and it'll be fine. So at this tribal council, it was a very, very quick realization, like all the snake talk, like you can kind of hear it in Hannah's voice at times. Like you can hear the smile and we're at opposite ends of the table. And like, I started to pick up mid tribal council and I was just like, I've been played so hard and this has gone exactly the way I didn't want it to go. Because if I had played myself as a goat a little bit harder in the beginning, rather than being so boisterous, it might've worked more to my advantage in challenge times. But yeah, I think there's just this one point where you can hear Hannah smiling and I'm like, oh, she's done it. And she has them all in her pocket right now. So yeah.
Totally. She just like used that information. So we see you make a move. You basically give people a ride home. You try to like work an angle. Let's make something happen. And there's just a lot of consternation because potentially being a 4-4 vote. And the situation seems like you have to have 5 or 6 to feel really good. Max decides to change up his strategy as well. And it's easy because it's like it's kind of like he wants to worm or like snake his way into the den of snakes himself. And I'm like, well, that's going to be hard to do, but it's not impossible. We've seen it before in Survivor, so that could be interesting. My notes say Kevin realizes it has an accurate read on Max, so I'm a little confused on my note on that. But
I think I know that one.
Yeah.
But so basically, after the vote, Kevin is explaining to Max why he flipped or whatever, and then Max keeps asking questions and stuff, and so it was pretty clear that Max like knew something had gone on. And then Kevin had a confessional right after that saying like, Max is a smart guy and like I know that he's a little suspicious of me. So it was like Max was aware of what went on, but then Kevin was also like kind of aware of Max being aware, if that makes sense.
Makes sense, totally.
Yeah.
Mutual perception.
Yeah.
between the
Game
two.
recognizing game.
Yes. Interesting. We have a brief sequence after this with we get to see the high school friends Andy and Ryan again. Lil Ryan, or it's just going to be Ryan now from here on out. It's just Ryan. So I hope you're happy at home. So Andy and Ryan and the fake idol, and a very strange editing because somebody's playing piano in the background, and I kept rewatching it because it sounded like an operatic, like Joplin-esque piano song, and I was like, I'm so confused. But yeah, Andrew, what's your takeaway? You're a host now. What's your takeaway with players and fake idols and fake anything? How do you feel about it?
Okay, I absolutely love fake idols as a host. I think it's so fun. I love when people are like, I love when people are going to try to deceive their cast, right? Like that's fun. Idols are already scary enough. And then if you have someone throwing in a bunch of fake idols, like it's just so fun to watch as a host. Now, as a player, I think it's dangerous territory because if you don't reveal it to anyone, like good, fine, you're doing your thing. But Andy, like, tells Ryan, doesn't show Ryan that he's made this fake idol. And now Ryan's got to think, okay, Andy's going to be a sneaky player. What if he tries to deceive me? Like, I don't want that on my side. So like as a player, fake idols are I think very difficult to work around. But as a host, oh my God, I love watching this sequence. I think it's so fun.
That makes a lot of sense, especially if you make a fake idol and you tell people about it. You're going to be in like a Survivor Gabon situation where it almost becomes like a game and you start laughing at somebody and then it's just a hot mess after that, jury management wise. So that's interesting. Ryan takes that information and goes like, oh, that's nothing. I'm going to take this to the 4D chess level and I'm going to create a legacy advantage that somebody already gave me. And I'm like, okay, to all of you college Survivor fans that are actually in college and can play, I think you need to do this. Like Kirk's advice, have a fake idol at round one. When you walk up to the steps, I'm like, have this in your pocket. I don't know why. Because if you go to a random tribal council, just be like, I got this, bitch. And then see what happens. If you're going to be eliminated, just be like, I don't know, I think. So he makes a legacy advantage. I can't wait to see how this plays out. It's crazy. We get to the challenge, water relay challenge. Sarah, anything you want to relive here at the water relay?
Oh my God. Is there anything that I want to relive? I wish I had longer legs. That is a big thing for me. It was, yeah, I'm glad. No, I mean, there's nothing that I want to relive from this challenge. It's what got me sent home. I think like one thing that you're going to see with this team that, you know, especially in challenges as we move forward with the season, is that when Big Ryan is there, you can see beforehand how strategic he is in challenges and how when it comes to physical components, he's really good at organizing players by their physical components. So like his social game may not be that great, but his physical game is great. So he is always the one who's like, you're doing this, you're doing that, and this is going to work out. And it's super efficient. And then we lose Ryan and it's like, you know, was that potentially a coincidence? Like, is Chomani going to keep doing okay in challenges? So that was just something I picked up on, you know, retrospectively. So yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, the challenge is basically, it's like a water relay. So you have a sponge, you're filling it up, and then you're passing it from person to person. They can't move from their position; they're in a trapped position. And then Mario's post, and then and then you get it to somebody, and it's like Big Brother. You empty it out, the water fills to the top. Yada yada yada. And then that person, here's the thing: that person has to run all the way back. And then run all the way back. And then two people do a puzzle. And this goes to my theory. This is one of Kirk's Survivor theories. Maybe I'll make like a rules like that one dude has. The last person is always the shittiest job in Survivor. The last person is always don't pick it. I know you want to do a puzzle. I know you're like, oh, those pieces look colorful and fun. And I'm smart at it. But here's the thing. It's a terrible move. It's always a terrible move. And I think like, I would rather go to rocks than actively go and play. Can always be a scapegoat. And then who was it? I forget who's running for both teams. I felt so bad for these dudes.
Oh my God, I think it was Andy and Max were the two.
So,
yeah, because I just remember driving Max home and Max was like needed supplementary oxygen and he felt so bad, but like, I mean, he crushed it. Yeah, those two are the ones who like really deserve the round of applause. And plus, like, I think the more that you watch this season, like Ellie and Aaron are great at puzzle challenges. So anytime that they're going to be the ones doing the puzzle, like watch out, because it's always that anchor position that matters, like you said, and they are really good at it.
Yeah, it was crazy. I felt so bad for the dudes. And Sarah, we do have to talk about your strategy in the challenge. I gotta say it, like you were like putting the sponge in and then like whipping it. like
I'm not a physics major. Like, yeah, fair enough. Like, fair enough. It wasn't the most efficient way to do it, but like,
you should at least squeeze the sponge. You weren't even filling it up with water.
It was a sponge, Daddy. I didn't even know if that was like a thing that it could do. It was cold water. I was like, oh, it's gonna be hard. But yes, okay. Like, I'm ass at physical challenges. We all know this now.
Here's I really think you should have been on the puzzle. And that I take away everything I just said, but you were doing the puzzle like on the side. You were like with Tommy, like, oh, it's this piece is here, this piece is here. I feel like you should have been on puzzle, which I do take away everything I said about don't be the last person, but maybe, maybe. Another one of my hot takes as well is Genki in the judges chair screaming, "You do not want to go to tribal council." Yes, Genki. I want more clips of Genki. Ryan, I want more clips of Genki screaming stuff at challenges. Please and thank you. For your number one fan, Kirk.
I'm apparently
Let's
having
get
a
into
brain aneurysm. Excuse me.
it's okay. Let's get into tribal council. Leandra, what are some of your takeaways as we get to there's more before that, isn't there?
Yeah.
We have 7 minutes before the episode drops. We have to close this up in 6 minutes. So
We can make it quick.
let's make it quick. Let's get to tribal.
Well, I thought it was interesting before tribal, all the cross-tribal alliances that are happening, and so who knows how that will come into play in the coming weeks. But I thought that was super interesting and kind of one of the unique things that you can talk to whoever in these type of seasons.
Oh, this quote is just fantastic, Lauren. That's beautiful. Thank you. Okay. Oops. Sorry about that. Okay. So we get a lot of you can tell the morale is kind of low. You can tell there's been, because of the deception, you can tell that it's just kind of affecting the team. Sarah or somebody talks about boring gameplay, and I really like that as well. My notes are getting very sloppy.
I think that was Sarah.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Yeah.
Not surprised.
Yeah, not surprised either. I think I was likely referring to Lauren, and that's what is so hard is you've heard everything that I've had to say at this point. Lauren is really reflecting on it, the embodiment of the gameplay that I wish I had. Lauren sat back for a little bit of time and kind of let Hannah do her thing, and Lauren is an incredibly strong woman. If I'm gonna tell you to watch out for anybody moving forward, watch out for Lauren. So her gameplay might seem boring right now, but I think that she knows a lot more about this game of chess and how the sausage is getting made. And it's not. I underestimated her far too much, and it's my biggest regret is not working with Lauren and Katie, honestly, more. So yeah.
Absolutely, that totally makes sense. A couple of other of my hot takes in the episode, I missed this because I wanted to bring the Tommy thing full circle. So really quick, Tommy talks about something like, "I'll always take a free ride." And so one thing I just want to bring up because it's very easy to get very moral and very ethical in Survivor, but it's hard to actually be moral and ethical in Survivor. That's the contradiction of the game. And so my question to you, Tommy, is hiding info is a form of deception too. How about this? Some people wouldn't take a free ride. They'd want to earn a ride or pay for a ride. They'd want to feel like they gave. So I sometimes ethics and morality are very loose in Survivor, and I think you just have to leave those kind of where they lie outside of the game. So yeah, I mean, Sarah, you kind of saw it coming, and you were reading the room. You were trying to make some moves. It was beautiful to watch. I think you are a queen. You made a statement on the season, and you're one of those players that would. This is not just me patting your ego. I think you'd be really interesting to watch on television. They'd have to bleep you out so much. They'd have to be if it was Big Brother, they'd be Sarah,
I know.
Stop.
I know. I would give those editors a real workout. So it's a great season. I'm excited for everybody else to keep watching, but I'm sad that my time was cut short, but I do genuinely think that it was my time to go. I think the cast moving forward is fantastic. But yeah, always watch your back. But I think my biggest thing is just always look forward. And I did not do that enough.
That is some great advice that we're going to leave you with, friends. We are just a couple minutes away from the episode dropping on YouTube, and I have to be there to watch it as well. So thank you, Andrew, Leandra, and Sarah for joining us. It's been a pleasure. And Mr. Mario has one more thing. Yes, Sarah, there are flowers. Absolutely. That's so true. So true. Guys, it's been great. See you in the chat on Survivor UVA WAHOO Warriors, episode 5.
Thanks,
Bye, guys.
guys.
Thank you.